Welcome to the Rider Outsiders, where we talk CFL football and your Saskatchewan Roughriders. I'm Mitch Wiles with Dylan Robson and the self-professed genius of Canadian football, Bryce Wiles. Dylan, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. Feeling the turkey hangover a little bit.
And Bryce?
I had some traveling to do, so I'm back home. It's so nice to be back home, but I love to travel around Thanksgiving, see the family, and that's just great. But you know what? What time is it, Dylan?
What's that? What time is it? Oh, it's time for some quick hits.
First up, either Calgary sucked against Montreal, or Montreal is finally turning things around. The Alouettes picked off Bo Levi Mitchell 3 times in a losing cause. Dylan, is Montreal finally turning the corner, or did Calgary just not show up this week?
Montreal won't be turning the corner until sometime in mid-2019. So I think it's more of a case of Calgary. I mean, look, they've clinched the playoffs. They're basically guaranteed the West final spot, right? They have beaten everybody there is to beat, and they were going against the second worst team in the league. So Calgary didn't come 100% prepared. Controversial statement, maybe, but that's what I believe.
Just small clarification: the Roughriders still have a chance to host that Western final. They've clinched definitely a playoff spot, but not first place, not quite yet, although it's likely. Go ahead, Bryce.
Yeah, I think Calgary is pumping the brakes now, and they're still winning. It's not that the Alouettes are turning things around. I think Calgary is definitely giving those other teams in the playoffs just a little bit less to look at in the game room tape, right? They're not going to be pulling out all their plays. They're not going to be running their first call offenses. So that's what I think happened this week. They were doing just enough to win over there in Montreal.
Next up, Lewis Ward, field goal kicker for the Ottawa Red Blacks, breaks the field goal record for most consecutive successful field goals in a row. I believe he's up at 40 now. The question, how long will the streak go? Bryce, how many kicks is he going to make before he finally shanks one?
Well, now that the record's over, I mean, it's kind of like the pressure's off, so he might miss his next one. But he might actually be true all the way into the playoffs, and then the pressure of the playoffs can get to any player. So I think that's when he's most likely going to miss.
We need a number, sir. We need a number.
I'm going to say he'll get 46.
46. Dylan?
43, plain and simple. He broke Paul McCallum's record, I believe it was.
I thought it was Rennie Paraday. Maybe they both had it once upon a time.
Maybe.
So here's a question for you guys. Is Ward going to be the next Paul McCallum? Is he going to get manure dumped on his front lawn?
No one's.
Dylan, break out your crystal ball. You're a Rider fan. Is this possible?
No one's getting manure dumped on their neighbor's lawn.
All right. I didn't get a number for Dylan, but 50. He'll make
43. I said
43?
43.
My apologies.
That was the first words out of my mouth.
I say he gets 50, then he misses 51. Next, CFL is getting friendly with the Professional American Football League of Mexico, where the league's best players may make the trip to Canada. These new players will be listed potentially as global players, not to be confused with the current national or international classifications. Dylan, what do you think about the CFL cozying up with Mexico?
Yeah, you know what? I think it's a good, smart move. We look at what's happening in American football. We have the NFL. They could add a new team anytime. You never know what they're doing there, switching to LA and all this. We have the what is the new one? The new American Football League. I can't remember what the heck the other one is called, right? Plus, we have Vince McMahon's XFL restarting up in the next couple of years. CFL needs to start reaching out where there's going to be some football talent and developing relationships there, because we're going to need the talent to fill those rosters. There's going to be a lot of competition for those American players in the American football leagues. 3 of them there's going to be. So, yeah, partner up all weekend.
I like this move. I really like it. Whether or not they're actually going to get an expansion like league or division or something like that.
Right now, they're just talking about sharing players. Yeah.
But you know what? You look at the NFL. What do they do every year? They send their players over to London. They go across the pond and they play some games in the UK. I think it'd be nice to see, even though I love having the CFL up here, send a CFL game down to Mexico and see how it does. You know, they got big stadiums down there, and maybe we could grow a love for the CFL south of the border. So, yeah.
Fantastic. And finally, in Toronto, with Ricky Ray and McLeod Bethel-Thompson not under contract for 2019, the Toronto Argonauts are reportedly starting James Franklin next week. Franklin threw 2 touchdown passes in relief of Thompson on Saturday. Guys, what do you think of Toronto deciding to go with Franklin, looks like for the remainder of the season?
I think you called it a couple of weeks ago, last week, when you said they should start Franklin throughout the rest of the season. That's exactly what they're doing, and you called it. You called it there, Mitchell. But I think it's kind of stupid. He should have been playing this whole time. I don't know what the magic equation was there with McLeod Bethel-Thompson, but something happened, and it got him the starting gig. So, but it didn't work, obviously. Toronto lost a bunch of games after that. So, yeah, they got to go with Franklin because they have him for the next year, and there's no guarantee other teams won't have McLeod in their sights, and I don't think Ricky Ray's going to be playing.
Bryce?
Well, I'll tell you guys. Driving back from Saskatoon, and the Rider game's on at 2. So what do? You turn on the radio and you listen to the pregame talk. And we heard my old buddy there, Chris Best, and they were talking about this quarterback kind of thing in the CFL. And they were saying the CFL is a passing league, and if you don't have an elite quarterback in the position, you're not going to be winning games because you're going to have a guy in there who can pass the ball. And they got to go with Franklin, so they're just going to put him in for the rest of the year, get him his reps, get him some experience, and then hopefully he'll turn into one of those top-ranked quarterbacks for the CFL.
All right. Now, before we get into sort of the breakdown of the Rider Edmonton game, which is obviously an exciting game, we have an interview with Josh Bartel, and it's one of my favorite interviews of the season. Dylan, can you just set it up a little bit?
Yeah, Josh Bartel. So he's from Australia, but the thing about him is that Josh Bartel, super funny guy. So you might hear some of his answers where it sounds like he's giving an answer that maybe might sound like he's a little upset. Every single time I asked him a question, he got this crazy little smirk on his face, and you could see the wheels turning, and he was going to try to think about how he could insert a joke into his answer. So everything he says, he's trying to have fun with, and so he's a great guy. He was super happy before we even started the interview to be part of the show, and after we shut down, he shook my hand like twice, and he said thanks again. So he just loves talking about the game, loves having fun, and that's going to be apparent. Also, something I forgot to mention during the interview itself was that Josh Bartel and myself share a birthday.
My goodness.
April 23rd is the birthday of Josh Bartel and Dylan Robson. Also John Cena and William Shakespeare, if you're keeping track. But
can we play the interview now?
Good idea.
Here it is, Josh Bartel.
Here I am, Dylan Robson, on the sidelines of the Roughriders football field with punter and placeholder Josh Bartel. Josh, thanks for being on the show.
Hey, pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So you joined the CFL in 2012 with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. You became the most outstanding rookie that year, but you weren't a rookie to professional sport. So prior to the CFL, you played Australian rules football with the, was it the Wodonga Bulldogs, the Kiwa Sandy Creek, and the Murray Bush Rangers?
You nailed all that. Well done. had to spell it out a little bit.
A little bit. Yeah, so can you give the listeners just a brief summary of exactly what Aussie rules football is?
The brief summary, it's probably hard to listen to. You probably have to sit down with me and watch it on TV, but it's pretty much like a big oval field, 18 people each side, and the best way to describe it is probably organised chaos. And then he's got to get it down. The forwards have got to kick it through the big uprights to get 6 points, and the opposition, the defenders, are trying to stop him to do that, and then the ball goes down there at the other end, and they try to do the same thing. So, yeah, kick it through the uprights, and you get points.
So I've seen a bit of it on TV. It looks pretty rough at times. Does it get pretty rough?
Yeah, it's a pretty physical thing, but at a young age, they're sort of taught the right tackling techniques and the correct way to hit someone, so they're used to it. They've been doing it since they were kids.
Yeah. So how long did you play?
I played all the way up till I was like 25, 26, so not professional, just like semi, sort of casually sort of thing. So, yeah, since I could sort of walk and talk, started playing football.
And so with the Hamilton Tiger Cats, you trained with CFL legend Paul Osbaldiston. I mean, he played from 86 to 03, so that's a lengthy career. As well as Luca Conji, former Saskatchewan Roughrider. How steep was the learning curve from Australia rules football to CFL for you?
Yeah, it was pretty steep. The kicking side of it wasn't that steep for me because, as sort of as you said, I had Aussie there, Osbaldiston, and he's sort of adapted my technique, which was a little bit different to the traditional punting technique, and he sort of turned it into a hybrid technique for me, and I found that pretty easily. But there's just all the rules and all the other sort of stuff that I didn't really understand, and there's still a couple of rules here and there that I don't really understand, but I can't ask anyone now because it's been 6 years, so they'll just laugh at me. And El Conji was a huge help for me there. He was sort of always helping me out with all the rules and telling me where to go, where to run, and what to say and what not to say.
And so North American kickers might have a reputation of sort of not being the greatest tacklers, but your experience with Aussie rules football must give you a little bit of an edge there. Do you like making the tackle on those plays on punts?
No, this year, the last couple of years, I've whiffed a fair few times on a couple of tackles. So, and the coaches like to remind me about it as well. They sort of a bit of a laughing joke at me. So, I like to bring that reputation here as a good tackler, but so far the film doesn't lie. I'm not that good.
I've seen you make a couple tackles, though.
Yeah, unlucky returner.
So I mentioned earlier you're also the placeholder for field goals. Now, Rider Nation has been given a lot of love to Brett Lowther, but technically you're also 93% on field goal holding. So what do you want the Rider fans to know about your role as the placeholder for field goals?
Just know there's a couple other people in the operation, like me and H.O.F, the long snapper. Yeah, we don't want all the love. We don't just give us a wave every now and then, or a little tap on the back, or a clap, just anything, because Brett's he's making the most of this, and he's not giving us any love either. So we've got to take it while we can get it.
You ever try kicking some field goals yourself?
Yeah, I tried. Then Dickie put me straight down to C group kicking, and Dickie goes, "There is no C group kicking, so I ain't no backup."
So you mentioned Jorgen Huss, or is it Huss?
Yep.
He's the long snapper. Earlier this year, I saw a video of him snapping the ball from somewhere up in the stands of Mosaic Stadium all the way down to some small little platform here on the field. Nailed it on the first try. Were you here for that?
No, I wasn't, and it's just convenient. I don't think anyone was actually here for that, but he said that he got it first go, so I guess we just have to believe it. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was just him by himself. So
yeah, I had a chance to talk to Brett Lowther earlier in the season, and he said Jorgen called him immediately. The first thing he told him was, "You should have seen the snaps."
Yeah, he gets a little bit excited, the fella, when he does something good. Just because, a long snapper, they don't really get to do many cool things. And, so he was pretty happy about it. I was pretty sure he called his mum and dad as well and told them about it.
But you must have a good relationship with him, because he's doing the punt snapping for you, the field goal snapping for you. Can you just tell the listeners a little bit about his role, how underrated his role is, or his abilities?
Yeah, he's hugely underrated. I bet you watch all the punt snaps this year, and he's been on the money every time. And even when he's down there covering, protection, he's super solid. And even just covering the punts, making tackles and that, I think he's leading the league for maybe the long snappers for tacklings. So, man, he's huge. And like I said, there's not a lot of praise that gets thrown his way, but internally, he gets the love.
So, if you had to play another position for the Riders, barring anything to do with kicking, what position would you choose?
Yep, sounds good to me.
I don't know. I might just go like assistant equipment guy, maybe. I don't want to be out there on the field. No, I'll go receiver. Backup receiver. Yeah.
Well, a couple of weeks ago, we saw an attempted fake punt where, I mean, it looked like the pass was completed and caught for a first down, but was called back due to an ineligible receiver. What happened out there?
It's just me not knowing all the rules again. So, it was sort of that play. They gave us a look, and the coaches sort of gave me the license to sort of free range, I suppose you could say. And buddy Jeter put his hand up, so I was like, oh, yeah, I'll just throw it to him. And it was a tight spiral, and it looks nice on film, but doesn't count because it was a penalty. So, but anyway, next one will do pretty good.
Yeah, it was. I think it was the only time Rider fans got to see Coach Chris Jones laughing on the sidelines. So
he wasn't laughing when I saw him the next day at meetings. So, yeah, enjoy that.
How does the cold weather affect your roles personally?
It's a little bit because we're sort of standing around a lot more than the other team or the other players. The chill sort of gets to us a bit more. We've got to stay a little bit more active, keep warm, and keep stretching. But it sort of affects the ball as well. Like, it doesn't go as far now. It's cold. It's probably losing 5 yards and all that kind of thing. But it probably, if anything, just makes me not want to come out here at all.
What has been your most memorable play in your CFL career?
Well, it was a couple of weeks ago when I finally got to throw a pass. And then, I'm going to say that because it's sick. Played 6 years, and it was the first time they let me do a fake. So I'm going to say the pass. Even though it doesn't count, it counts for me.
Well, it counts for me too.
Here we go.
So Rider teams, the special teams approach on the punts seems to be high punts and get a lot of coverage around the returner and minimize the return. As we see other teams go for the long punts. Which one do you prefer as a punter?
Well, the one we're doing now, it's easy for me. I'm just doing my Aussie kick. It's sort of we're giving up yardage, but we're giving it plenty of hang time. So we're getting all of our guys down there covering, and we've been a bit unlucky this year, I think. Like, a couple of good returners, I've got a couple on us, but this it's easy for me. I could probably do it all day.
Yeah, well, the return game across the CFL has been pretty outstanding this year, but what about, let's go a little different direction here. What about if we were to take a look at your music playlists, what are we going to see on there?
Not much, actually. I'm not a big music listener, and I live in a house with Brett and H.O.F, so I don't really get a say in what goes on the music list. It's normally Brett, he's pretty much all over it. Then you jump in H.O.F's car and he's got country blaring, so I've sort of got a bit of both. I've got country, and then jump in with Brett's car, he's got a bit of R&B and all that kind of thing, so I don't really have much of a playlist.
What about your Netflix? Netflix suggested sort of playlist there. What do you think?
Yeah, I've been crushing a lot of series this year. Where did I start with? Peaky Blinders, I went through that. That was pretty sweet. At the moment on Archer, which is it's been around for a bit, and I've just discovered it. I'm up to my third season now, and it's pretty sweet. I love it. So, I like diving into series.
So, I've heard Australia doesn't really have coffee. Is that true?
Shut up. We have the best coffee in the world, mate.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
I remember hearing somebody say that the coffee there is very different than the coffee here, that it's more of sort of a freeze-dried thing or something.
No, 100% not. No, our coffee is way better over in Australia than it is here. It tastes like a little bit of just scooping it out of the puddle of water. But you get back home, I'm definitely missing the coffee. I'm a big coffee drinker, and I don't know, it's just our baristas, I think, are a lot better than Canadians. So that's wrong wherever you heard that information.
Okay, so Australia is also noted for some of like the world's deadliest animals. You got dragons and crocodiles and killer ostriches and bird-eating spiders and wild boars. Did you ever have a run-in with any of these wild animals out in the going for a hike or anything like that?
No, sort of the area I live with. Probably more snakes. Like, I live on a dairy farm, like growing up as a kid. So we always used to have all the snakes coming around during the summertime, but. Yeah, it's never felt threatened by them at all. It's just normally we had a pretty good snake dog that used to kill them pretty easily, and I've this big theory that as soon as you come to Australia you're going to die, but I've survived 33 years, so it's a myth.
So Roughriders have Edmonton coming up on Thanksgiving Monday here. The interview will air. I don't know. Maybe it aired after the game actually takes place. But what do you look forward to? What are you looking forward to on Monday?
Yeah, I think it's just another win at home. Like playing at home in front of the fans, it's super fun, and to play like a good rivalry game against Edmonton, and especially Thanksgiving, I think it's going to be probably sold out, no doubt. And yeah, if we get a real good win here, we can sort of clinch ourselves a home playoff. So there's a lot at stake here.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Appreciate it.
So big thank you to Josh Bartel for that wonderful interview. Had some laughs during the interview. Had some laughs listening to it again a couple times. I want to clarify the thing about the coffee is I heard from multiple people. One said Australia doesn't have coffee and they have to get sent coffee all the time. And another person said that the coffee that Australia does have is like this weird powder that you don't brew it the way we brew it. You just mix it in like a freeze-dried thing. Anyways, so he called me crazy for even bringing it up. But anyways, thanks, Josh Bartel. Great interview.
Okay, now it's time to take a look at that Rider Edmonton matchup. 19-12. Defensive struggles, a game of field goals until Willie Jefferson's pick six. What a game. So where do we want to start here, guys?
Well, this was a Thanksgiving miracle. But you know what we saw here in this home game for the Riders is the first three quarters. It was a kicking battle between these kickers. They were kicking it back and forth, but we saw Lowther miss two field goals. Kind of a disappointing showing for the Rider kicker, but what a great showing for the Rider defense, guys. How good were they playing today?
Yeah, Rider defense looked incredible. I want to give special shout out to the referees for the amount of flags they were able to cram into one single game. At times, 2 flags per play was getting pretty impressive out there. Those refs really brought their A game. Some of it was out of control there, those penalties. I saw one. It was unsportsmanlike, unnecessary conduct, whatever they call that, the big 15-yarder. So it was after a Rough Rider catch. I can't remember who it was. One of the Rough Riders pushed one of the Eskimos, and the push was gentle. It was a gentle push. Jumps back, throws his arm in the air, feet go straight up. He lands on his back, looks up at the ref like it was the biggest sell. He could have been taking a spear from Bill Goldberg. That's how big this sell was in this little push, and that drew a 15-yard penalty. So, he took a dive right in front of the ref. It's embarrassing to see pro football players taking dives like they're playing for the World Cup soccer teams. We don't need that stuff in this game. But, yeah, Mitch, you were watching the game.
I was watching the game, yeah. You were at the game. I was watching the game.
Did you get a sense of excitement back and forth, defensive struggle? Was it like a battle on TV? Were you getting that vibe?
Oh, it was very stressful because what it was, we were down 3. We have a chance to tie it up with a field goal, and Lowther misses. Okay, no problem, right? We get in position again. Defense is playing stellar. Lowther gets a chance, misses again. Just crazy, right? And then Claros threw a pick when they were almost in field goal range later on. It was nuts. The game was ours to win. The Riders just needed to put a point on the board. Couldn't quite do it, and then thank goodness Willie Jefferson's pick six at the end. Like, that came out of nowhere. And what is it? Marshall had a pick. Then in the second corner, Gainey had a pick. Riley wasn't playing. Let's pull up some stats on Riley because it must look pretty poor. He was, it does. 13 for 27. That's 48%. 222 yards with 3 interceptions, no touchdown passes. So it's probably his worst game of the year. And this is coming off a poor showing last week. And I was saying it, Edmonton is falling apart. And I believe most of us, 2 of the 3 or all of us, called that Winnipeg might get in front of Edmonton and for the playoff spot.
Oh, that was the genius. Getting back to Riley. Hey, Dylan, you were at the game. You didn't get to maybe rewatch it, of course, but we saw the frustration in Riley later on in the game. I think it might have been after a pick six or something like that, where the cameraman was getting in his face, and he was telling the cameraman to get the deleted explicit camera out of my face. You know, when the cameraman will run on the field, kind of really close to the huddle and do that.
Doing his job, yeah.
Yeah, doing his thing. And you could just see that Riley is not happy and pretty frustrated with the performance from the Eskimos team this year.
Yeah, well, that's what you get when you step into Rider Nation territory. We are not kind to the visiting quarterbacks. And, you might have seen a struggling Edmonton Eskimos, but honestly, the defense of the Edmonton Eskimos were essentially able to shut the Roughriders offense down. I know the Riders offense has struggled as of late, not with just not monstrous stats, but Edmonton shut us down completely.
Oh, yeah.
100% shut down.
Armando Sewell, I believe.
Sewell.
No, did you watch the game on television?
I know there's another guy named
Sewell.
I think it's Sewell.
Right.
No, anyways,
right,
a beast. He was on Trey Mason nonstop, dragging him down. Like, our running game was pretty pitiful.
Well, Dylan, why don't you talk about this? I got to ask you a question here, Dylan. You were talking about all the drops that the receivers had, especially that one where it hit the one guy right in the face mask on that almost perfectly placed in ball for this deep touchdown pass, and it was like one of those blooper reels where it bounced off of his helmet.
Way too many drops. Like, it was pathetic. Offense struggled in multiple facets. And I'll get to those drops later in the show, if you know what I'm talking about. But Mitch, what were you saying? What were the stats there on the run game? Trey Mason.
Yeah, Trey Mason, 10 carries, 20 yards for a whopping 2-yard average. Let's see, Zach Claros won the scamper for 9, and Nick Marshall won for 3 yards. Probably a 3rd-and-1 gamble there. So it's pretty ugly when he got 32 yards total rushing. But it didn't seem to matter with a low-scoring game like this. It all came down to that one big play at the end. But it's still a couple things on here. My favorite call of the game, it was, I think, one of the interceptions from Riley. It's a turkey day, but this one's a bit of a duck. Huh?
Nah.
Huh?
That's
pretty good.
To me, that sounds like a canned kind of. That sounds like cranberries coming out of a can on Thanksgiving, like a canned joke that he was just waiting to open up at the right point, right? He probably had a bunch of guys maybe like write him some like stupid puns that he could maybe use for Thanksgiving, right?
Just so hard on the play-by-play, guys. My goodness. I liked it. I wrote it down on my notes. Turkey Day, but a bit of a duck, and it was a duck. It was a pretty bad throw.
Oh, yeah. That's a hell of a dad joke. You mentioned that at the beginning of the Rider analysis, Willie Jefferson, that interception that Riley threw. I mean, there's no reason that should have been an interception. It was basically a bullet pass. Hit Willie Jefferson in the hands. The ball was, probably at terminal velocity, traveling at a good, 50 kilometers an hour. And it just stuck to Willie Jefferson's hands. And then he was gone. He wasn't necessarily running that fast, but there was nobody around him was able to catch him. And he was able to kill a lot of extra clock.
Yeah, what did you think of that?
Willie Jefferson killing clock at the end of the play was stressful because I'm wondering, go. And I look at the clock and I realize like a minute and some. And remember, we were saying it last week or whatever. We were talking about how, oh, great, the Riders scored. And then we look at the clock and say, but they left too much time on the clock. And it was one of those things where I'm glad Willie Jefferson did it because the last play of the game was a Hail Mary pass completion to the 8-yard line. And had Willie Jefferson not taken off that extra, it had to have been a good 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Eskimos easily could have had another play from the 8-yard line to score a touchdown. So glad Willie Jefferson took the time.
Yeah, for me, it was like a minute 55 there in the fourth quarter. I almost had deja vu because didn't Willie Jefferson do the exact same thing like a couple weeks ago? Where he
at the Boundary Bowl.
No, that was in Winnipeg. Yeah, where he ran it back and then decided to kind of stick it in the face of the opposing team by kind of taunting them by running up the goal line. Because by that point, usually all the offense is given up, right? And you are totally correct. He did waste pretty much just enough time because everybody was thinking it, and Riley still has that heart of a champion, right? So he's going to toss it in there deep, and I was thinking, whew, just like, phew, I'm glad there's no time on the clock now. So
now, when he was doing it, I was getting worried that he's going to be, messing around on the goal line, and then someone's going to hold someone and get a penalty and take the stupid thing back.
It's funny because at the game in the stands there, it was the first time they started playing the Roughriders, theme song, the Rough Rider rally song before the touchdown was even scored. So Jefferson gets to the goal line and he kind of weaves back and forth, and he gets past the field goal posts, and he's on the other side. So I think the sound guy must have thought he crossed the line already. Hits play, and all of a sudden, green is the color. Football is the game, and he still hadn't scored his touchdown.
Wow. All right, so once he did score the touchdown and everyone celebrates, fast forward 15 seconds and Jason Moss throws a challenge flag for roughing the passer on Zach Evans. Now, I'm not sure, Dylan, if you got a good look at it from your seat, but it was a big hit, chest to chest. The face mask might have touched a bit, and then Evans lands on him really hard. It could have been just a roughing call in general, I suppose. Bryce, so did you see the play there? Did you think the refs made the right call by not throwing a flag there? That would have really changed the game.
Yeah, I think they got the call right. I think football in general is going in the wrong direction with trying to protect the quarterbacks a little too much. I think they're men, they're on the field of battle, and if you're going to go on that field, you got to be prepared to take a hit. And I don't want to see people injured, but I also don't want to see the game get ruined by these calls from the referees, or even from command center, right, mm-hmm. where they're going to take 5 minutes to see if he landed on him or if he didn't or what.
They were taking a long time. Rider fans, we were cheering. We didn't know what the heck was going on at the stadium there. There was no announcement that the field, that there had been a challenge on the play. So we didn't know. We just saw the refs talking and talking and talking, and there was no official call or nothing. And so now we started worrying, they're going to screw us on this. What are they going to? The crowd turned. I mean, it was chaos in there. It was nothing but boos. I don't know if you heard it on TV, but the crowd basically went nuts, booing the referees for taking so long, for not explaining what was going on. I mean, obviously the refs were just doing their job. They got to wait for the challenge to be reviewed. So, but there was some confusion on the part of Rider fans there, for sure.
I do agree with Bryce that it seems like a light swat or like a graze of a helmet with a hand can be a roughing the passer. A 15-yard penalty, it's a little bit crazy. It doesn't seem fair versus some of the other penalties, but I guess they're trying to protect against concussions. But I like the no call. I thought it was a clean hit. However, in the post game, Matt Dunnigan thought it was roughing and it should have been called.
Right.
But the former coach for Toronto, Jim Barker.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
he thought it was a clean hit, and he didn't want to see the refs get in the way of a great finish. Okay. Well,
you got to know where Matt Dunnigan's coming from in that regard. I mean, the guy put his brain's health on the line during his career multiple times.
Oh yeah,
he's talked about his concussion syndrome that he's had, and so I mean, obviously he wants to side with overprotecting the QB. That's where he's going to go every time.
All right. Also on the list here to get to, who the F is Brian Jones? Number 89.
Who?
White guy, Brian Jones. Plays for the Riders. Number 89. 89. Brian Jones.
Number.
That's,
is that Duron Carter's old number?
That's right. So Brian Jones scoops this up.
Hold on. Well, let's talk about Duron Carter for a second here. Didn't he get his first touchdown as an Argo?
It doesn't matter if he scored a touchdown. We're talking about Brian Jones, number 89.
Let's talk about Duron Carter. Didn't he? Oh, he almost ran. Okay, yeah. Let's talk about.
Don't take away Brian Jones' moment here. This is Brian Jones's moment.
That's right, Brian Jones from Enfield, Nova Scotia. Went to Acadia. Enfield.
Where'd you say he's from?
From Enfield, Nova Scotia. Never heard of it. But
we should if he's from Enfield, we should call him Indiana Jones. That's what we should call him.
Whoa. I think we should. We should test it out. So what did he get? He had 2 catches. He had 1 bad drop, right? And then they went back to him a couple times. Let's take a look. Brian Jones, 2 catches, 20 yards. And those are big catches. His fourth quarter catches, I believe.
Yeah, it's impressive because as far as I'm concerned, I think they saw Brian Jones walking around the concourse there in the first half and said, hey, Roosevelt's not playing. Let's grab that guy. He looks tall. And they grabbed a fan named Brian Jones off the out of the stands there and put some pads on him and threw him on the field. That's the best story I could come up with when they started calling Brian Jones' name. But I'm glad to hear he's actually a football player.
You are right. He is tall. He's 6'4", listed at 233. Let's go through his information here. So he played 3 games with the Argos. He was the CFL draft in 2016, so he must have just been floating around on practice rosters.
Yeah, so it's good that he got some play time, made some plays for us in an important time, clutch catches, minus the drop there. But.
Okay. Anything left from the big 19-12 10th win for the Riders?
It was a struggle, but we got there.
Yeah, Riders are just getting it done. Doesn't matter how ugly the W is, the W still looks pretty to me.
Okay. Next up, we have part 2 from the Hall of Famer.
The one and only Rough Rider royalty, Gene Makowsky. Not only is he a member of the Legislative Assembly, not only is he Rough Rider legend, Grey Cup champion, but he's also star of Corner Gas for 1 episode at least. Big fan of that show. Had to put that in there. This is part 2 of the interview. We heard last week from Gene. We went right up to the part where he was talking about the last seconds of the 2009 Grey Cup. And so we're going to start the interview right there and let him finish that story. One of the things that amazed me about Gene is how many players he played, how many seasons he played. And so when he wants to give answers to questions, you'll hear this in this second part. He's basically going through a Rolodex of CFL history, trying to recall certain things and certain players, certain guys. And so, again, it's just an awesome privilege to hear Gene speak. So let's go to part 2.
So are you able to sort of take us back to those final seconds? You know, what was going through your head? I was there at the game as a fan. I remember that flag going up, and then it was like the next sort of 3 minutes of life fast forward in my head. I could see it all. I was like, oh no, this is, when I saw that flag go up, I knew that was kind of it. But how about you? What were you seeing?
Yeah, I just, we always say it never should have come down to that. I mean, we had a good lead in the game, and if we in the fourth quarter, if we get any first downs, put a drive together, then the game's over. So, but that being said, the last few seconds, I mean, I just watched the original kick go wide, and you thought, holy cow, is that what happened? And you start celebrating, and then there's a few people not, and you're kind of, well, hold on here. Was there something? Was there a time count? Was there something else, or do we took a penalty? What penalty? And so you understand penalties that are athletic in nature, holding or illegal contact, something like that. But the mental ones are the tough ones. As a coach, you try to avoid those, the offsides, the assignment errors, that kind of thing. Those are tough. So to give them another chance on that was tough to take. And so yeah, you go from elation to almost disbelief that they get another chance at that. And of course, it went. The second one went in, of course, and it was pretty tough to take.
Yeah, so sorry for bringing it up, but my wife and I were on our honeymoon. We said, hey, let's buy Grey Cup tickets. We feel like the Riders are going to be there, and we took our honeymoon to the 09 Grey Cup. But I mean, it was one of the most historic moments in I think in sports, really. So, but what I want to bring up after that is opening week, game 1 of the 2010 season. So, I was in attendance at that game as well. I refer to that game as sort of the greatest CFL regular season game ever played. Like Canada Day, Taylor Fields, Montreal's back in town. Montreal gets an early lead. The game was just wild. Do you remember that game?
Yeah, I remember aspects of it. I mean, it was just sometimes games go like that. You can't seem to get a first down, and the other times we're just bombing the ball away and finding receivers all the time. And so I remember a few big catches. Of course, I think it was S.J. Green in the end zone with that catch. It must have been the catch of the year in the CFL that year. And yeah, it was an exciting game to open up the schedule that year.
Yeah, so it was 54-51, double overtime. I think the Riders' offense really kicked off with a huge Wes Cates run and then Ryder TD. And, I mean, there was blocked punts, returned missed field goals for touchdowns. There was crowd surfing, jump balls. There was just huge plays. And then, of course, there was also the 13th man penalty. I believe it was already in overtime when that penalty happened. And I just remember hearing referee say too many men and the collective groan, like the painful groan from the fans. But the reason I bring this up is because it was sort of redemption. We overcame that 13th man penalty, won the game 54-51. And did you guys, I just want to sort of go back, what was it like? Like, did that feel like a Grey Cup redemption for the Riders at the time?
Oh, I wouldn't say that at all. No, that's you're comparing a regular season game to a Grey Cup game. And so, it's obviously nice to win and have a good game in front of your home fans, etc. But you don't have a ring on your finger. You don't have that goes all and everything that goes along with that. So, no, certainly, I wouldn't equate the two games.
Oh, okay. As a fan, at least it felt like, well, at least we got him, because if Montreal would have came back and
I suppose on some level there, but again to compare Grey Cups to regular season, personally, in my opinion, others might have something different to say, but that's what I'd say on it.
Yeah, for sure. And then Montreal again in 2010 Grey Cup. Again, like, so that must have been like such a tough loss as well, because you're playing Montreal again. So this time it does feel, we can get the redemption. So what was it like having to deal with that?
Yeah, that was tough. I was really optimistic in that game because I thought the football gods would be on our side on that one to get a chance back with Montreal that game and to be able to sort of right the wrong of the season before, but it wasn't meant to be. We didn't play particularly well on offense that game, and so that's tough. I mean, any time you lose is difficult in pro football, but you spend all season grinding through the season to get a chance to be in that game and to not be able to win is certainly not a fun feeling, and so that was my turned out my last chance to be a Grey Cup champion, and certainly wish I would have had more opportunities and more rings on my finger.
I remember your career, and I remember moments of certain plays, and I remember it was almost like there was times where you would just pancake the defender and join the second half of the play and lay blocks that completely devastated some of the defensive players. Just I'd never seen an O lineman play so many times in the second half of the play as you. And is that something you think that is coachable? Is that something that just sort of was your killer instinct out there on the field, or how do you explain being so involved throughout, from the start of the play to the end of the play as an O lineman like that?
Well, I guess early on you're always taught to play the whistle, right? You go, you never know what's going to happen. There could be a fumble downfield. You want to be in position to help your team win, and so that's kind of my philosophy: hustle downfield when you can, when it makes sense to do so. And so I like to play to the whistle and do my part each and every play. So I just enjoyed it. Generally downfield, the players aren't quite as big as the line of scrimmage, so it makes it a little easier as well to deal with those guys. But no, it's just that sort of philosophy to play the whistle.
So have you ever hit someone or made a block a little too hard and thought, whoops, could have went a little lighter on that guy?
No, I don't recall having that thought. I might have been called a few times. I was half a second too late, and on the last part of the whistle, and so that would hurt my team, and I certainly wouldn't want to do that. But I did probably at some point along the way. But that's again part of the game, and you try and limit those types of penalties.
What were some of the Roughriders you watched growing up where, you idolized?
Oh, boy. Roger Aldag. I was kind of a bigger kid, and so I always liked watching the linemen, the Jurisons, Goldsmith, and, all those guys. And right across the league, I certainly watched the league, so I knew all those guys when growing up, and enjoyed watching any sports really as a big sports fan growing up, but CFL was always a big part of what I like to watch on TV.
And throughout your career, who do you think was the toughest D lineman you ever had to play against?
I've been asked this before, and I name a few people, and then when I later on after the interview, oh man, how could I miss that guy? He was hard. He gave me handfuls all the time. So everybody's good in the CFL. I mean, that's sort of a pat answer, but it is true. I mean, there's no days off there. You can't take anyone lightly. If you did, you'd see it on film, and the coach would let you know about it. Joe Montford, I remember he was just what was it called, the Wall of Honor or whatever they have in Hamilton there, and he's certainly deserving of that. He's a very good player. He was a lineman size, but DB speed, and you're essentially backpedaling trying to even have a chance to keep up with him. He was very good. Brent Johnson just went in the Hall of Fame, obviously very deserving. He was so fluid. He would his pass rushes were awesome. He was a very good player. He's one of those you could tell you what he's going to do, what move he's going to do, and he'd still have difficulty trying to block it. Cameron Wake was up in the CFL for a couple of years, but he did some big things because he was just an amazing athlete that you'd have to play the whole team. He wouldn't quit. I played against guys that sort of geared up when there's second long chance for sacks, and they get by on first down, but he played every play like it was his last play, and so that made him very difficult to play against. So I mean, those are just some of the few of the guys, and I could probably spend an hour here going over guys that I had trouble with because they're all just very difficult, and when I think about it back now, it was really fun to play against guys like that. Those guys give you real big challenges, real big headaches to play against.
Was there a single game or a single play in your mind that really sticks out that you look back and it's either a good memory or a tough memory, or just because the play was tough, like just a single game or a single moment throughout your career that you really that you want the fans to know about?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I mentioned before the 07 Labor Day when we were driving the ball and we called a play. The Bombers had a great defense, called for it, but Kerry Joseph we blocked it correctly, but he just somehow slipped through, and there was no second level players, and it was a huge play at home, and that was just so much fun. I guess just off the top of my head, it's one of these where I'll probably think of several more later on, but it's a good question. Just in the 07 Grey Cup to ice the game, we had there was still time on the clock, and if we didn't get a first down, we had to punt. So we were able to get a first down, and it was an outside zone to the left, to the boundary side, and Cates got a first down, and right there I knew we were Grey Cup champs. We just had to kneel the ball down after that. That was a great feeling.
Totally. What would you say your personal favorite single game was as a player?
I think the easy answer there is the Grey Cup game, of course. The Grey Cup game that you win, right? I mean, Jesus, if there's any others that, I mean, earlier in my career, I got a chance to start, and my first start was in Birmingham, Alabama, of all places, in the CFL, and so that was pretty interesting. At Legion Field, I got to start for the Roughriders on American soil. That's kind of something interesting that sticks out. Any game at home was always a lot of fun. Just playing in front of the home fans at Old Taylor Field was always something special. But I guess I go back to that Grey Cup game. I mean, it's what it means, and that's what you strive for, and to win it is what you look for as a pro athlete.
What about as a fan? Was there a game? I mean, so you would have been watching the '89 Grey Cup on some of the playoff games around that time. What about your favorite game as a fan?
Yeah, you mentioned it, the '89 Grey Cup. I as a kid in high school, and loved the CFL all through growing up. The Riders had struggled early in my life there, and that Grey Cup run, number one. But then that game, I mean, I didn't sit down the whole time. I was so nervous, and just being such a sports fan, and seeing the Riders in the Cup, as I had mentioned, and what a game! I mean, back and forth, and the Tony Champion catch, and Mark Guy catch. Go down the list. All the plays of that game, I was a nervous wreck, and it worked out.
Yeah, I remember it. I was 7 years old, I guess, at the time, and I remember a lot of cheering, a lot of back and forth, things getting explained to me, but I'll never forget the field goal, obviously, and because that was when my family went nuts, and we all gathered in my grandpa's living room to watch that game. So,
awesome.
Have you been keeping up with Rider Ball lately?
Yeah, you bet. I go to all the home games and watch when they're on the road, and I don't watch, obviously not like when I played, but I follow the league, and
so how do you think the Riders are looking this year?
They're in good shape. I like where they're going. I think we have to be more consistent on offense. I think that's pretty clear to everyone. I think we can be, but the defense has been very good, and we've found ways to win, and that's the way what you're going to have to do in the playoffs. A lot of times you're going to have to grind out a win, manufacture points somehow on a kick return or a punt block, and we've been able to consistently do that during the season. And so I think just like last year, we easily could have been in the Grey Cup last year as well, and so. It's going to come down to that playoffs. It'd be nice to have a home playoff game here. I think that'll certainly give us an advantage in that scenario. But I think the Riders are as good a bet to be in that Grey Cup as anyone, I think.
Mm-hmm. Do you ever get an itch to get into coaching when it comes to football?
Well, I do coach. I coach high school, and I coach in the RMF, my son's team. So I get my fill of coaching in that area. It's certainly a very busy time in the fall with work commitments, but also I try and help out when I can as assistant coach. And so that gives me my football fix, and certainly enjoy working with those young athletes.
That's cool. We had number 68, Thaddeus Coleman, on the podcast. So he's 6'8", 320 pounds. I asked him what his O-line likes to do, just for team building to stay together. And he said ribs. You can't never go wrong with ribs. So when you were on the O-line, what did you guys like to do to stay together?
Yeah, we do those sorts of things. Over the years, it changed a little bit as to what type of food we'd have. A lot of times in the locker room, they'd order some food in for us the day before a game. Sometimes we'd go out for wings. And prior to the game, I remember that. And of course, on the road, a lot of times we'd get together as a group, not only linemen but other positions as well, and go to a restaurant the night before a game. So those are the things we do. Spend time together outside of the locker room.
And so was it at the beginning of the 2012 season that you retired, or was it
Right.
at the begin before that season?
Before the 2012 season, yeah. I think it was, March or so of 2012.
Right. And so, I mean, I saw your retirement speech, but personally for you, and I guess looking back, how tough was it to walk away from pro football?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, once you're done, you're done. You can't go back. It's certainly a young man's game, and that's what you dreamed of doing your whole life as a kid, and you're living the dream that way, and getting to play professional football that not a lot of folks are able to get that opportunity, and I was able to do it for quite a long time. It became sort of routine in your life, right? You sort of gear up for the season, you go through it, and sort of build your life around that. So that comes to an end, and you move on. It's kind of a sad time, but everybody's time comes, and I was able to fortunately put it off for a lot longer than most. So I enjoyed my time, and tough to see it go, but again, you got to move on.
And so how did football prepare you for what you're doing now here at the legislative building? I see you got the new Mosaic Stadium sort of model hanging up on your wall there. And so how did that prepare you for what you're doing here?
Well, I guess there are some aspects that you always learn whatever job you take after football. I mean, working with people you hadn't known previously, and you got to come together and have some cohesion and put things together and try and get things done, and just working through tough times. There's always going to be tough times in this job. There's tough times. There's tough decisions you have to make, and at times can be a tough business, and you just gotta put your nose to the grindstone, so to speak, and work through it and keep grinding away and keep at it, and hopefully good comes out of it, and so those are some of the things. I think that team aspect, and that the fact that there are it can be a tough business at times. So you learn from this, learn to bridge to this job in specific.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot here. We've been asking on the podcast as we get towards the end of the regular season, Grey Cup matchup. So you've been keeping up with the CFL. What's your prediction? Which two teams are going to be in the Grey Cup?
Okay, well, I think it's going to be the Riders. They're going to find a way. They're going to find a way in Calgary to get her done, and then up north to Edmonton, and then out of the East. I don't know. I don't know what. I'd say Ottawa right now. They seem, but again, they're up and down. This year more than any, I find any team can beat anybody. You better be coming ready to play that week, and so anything can happen. Let's go with Riders of Ottawa and I'm very bad at predictions, by the way. I'll note that as well. So
awesome! Thank you so much for your time here, and absolute honor to be in your office and get a chance to speak with you. So thank you for everything you've done with football and outside of football as well. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you for the opportunity. Nice talking to you.
Awesome. Such a pleasure to hear from Gene Makowsky again. Again, big thank you to him for letting us into his office and hearing him speak. The history, the legendary status. I mean, awesome. So cool to talk to Gene Makowsky.
Wicked.
I guess we got to move on to the next segment here.
That's right. Bryce, where are we going next?
Well, the next segment, as always on the RO podcast, is a little thing that we like to call the Rouge. So it's 1 point from our RO podcast hosts that they want to make about the CFL this week. And I'm going to go first here with my 1 point. And my 1 point is, did you all see the sack celebration from Charleston Hughes today at that Rider game? Because after he sacked Riley, he did this turkey dance, right? He did this kind of the gobble gobble, and he's doing the turkey dance, right? I know I talked about the bird game last week, and I'm talking about birds this week, but then we saw Alex Bazzi. He sacked Caleros, and then he steals Charleston Hughes' little gobbler dance. So I think they were really they were saving up that sack dance celebration all year just for Thanksgiving, and they know it's Canadian Thanksgiving because they're smart football players, and that's my rouge for this week.
Are you saying they had their turkey dance celebration in the can of cranberry sauce?
Yes, it was a canned like cranberry sauce, just ready to open up. As soon as Hughes got that sack, he's like, I know what the sack celebration dance is this week, boys. It's going to be the turkey dance or the dirty bird. It wasn't the dirty bird. It was close to the dirty bird. Did you guys see it?
I saw it. But did you see this with my rouge? Here you go. Brett Lowther misses from 50, but who makes the tackle? Brett effing Lowther. So I think that was pretty awesome for Lowther to get out there and make that tackle. And I also think it's great that because Lowther, he really saved this team in a couple games, making game-winning field goals. Finally, he gets a little bit of help from the rest of the team. They save him because if the Riders lost this game, Lowther's 2 missed field goals would be a topic. Now, not so much. Dylan?
Yeah, great point on Lowther. I did see him make that tackle. That was cool. I want to mention that it was Family Day. So you guys mentioned in the turkey dance celebration and Lowther and all that. And so this was Family Day with the CFL. They were encouraging people, bring your kids to the game. We got SpongeBob at the game. We got all sorts of fun characters and things for the kids to do. So I brought my 10-year-old daughter, Victoria. She had a blast. We could have used a few extra touchdowns, I think, but it was awesome. So what I want to say is, if your listeners out there and you go to the games and you have kids or you have nieces or nephews or whatever, they haven't gone to the game this year, take them, bundle up now. You got to bundle up now. Don't forget to bundle them up. But take them to the game, have fun, because it's so important to keep the tradition alive. Keep the kids watching CFL. I mean, my daughter had a blast, and she loved the turkey dance celebration, perhaps more than anything else. So,
Okay. That's right. That weak clapping in the background means it's time again for the meh of the week. And I don't know, I'll start off today. My meh of the week is Bo Levi Mitchell, or as Dylan calls him, BM, throwing 3 interceptions against the Montreal Alouettes.
Clopping.
Just ugly. Easily his worst performance of the year. So you get my meh of the week. Dylan, what do you got?
My meh of the week goes to Shaw. It's Kenny Shaw, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Kenny Shaw. Yeah, Kenny Shaw. 3 drops. 4 if you count the one where he caught the ball out of bounds, because that was easily an inbounds catch if he wouldn't have jumped for the ball. He didn't have to jump, but he jumped. Landed out of bounds. So 4 drops, I'm calling it 4 for Kenny Shaw, where with offense really needed every catch we could possibly make. And another drop that bounced off the top of his face. Guaranteed touchdown if he catches that ball. But I mean, hit him in the face. You can't expect a QB to drop it any closer than right on your head. Turn around, reach up, do something, get some flexibility there. Shaw, come on. Meh of the week. 3 drops, 4 drops. Yeah.
All right, I'll give you mine meh of the week. It was kind of like the whole Sunday CFL snooze fest. I mean, if it wasn't bad enough, we're full of turkey. We're up to our eyeballs in tryptophan overdose, and the CFL gives us 2 snoozers of a game. Calgary Montreal 12-6. Come on, give me a break. How are you not sleeping by then? And then Edmonton Sask. If you fell asleep anywhere except the fourth quarter, you missed the most exciting part of the game. And I think Glenn Suter was even so bored he couldn't even carve that turkey. He just massacred it, It was like, I don't think Glenn Suter has ever carved a turkey in his entire life. And I think it showed on TV today. Or he was just so bored from the games that he was sleeping, and the knife kind of sort of cut some of the meat off there. And that's my meh of the week. Going to sleep on a Sunday afternoon.
Bryce, it's Monday.
It's Monday.
Yeah. Not to worry.
Damn it, we got to work tomorrow.
Yeah. You didn't like the low-scoring games.
It's Monday, right? Yeah, it's Monday.
All right, we gotta keep moving. Okay,
let's go. Let's go to the pick'ems.
Pick'ems. We're gonna end the show with predictions, as we always do. So next week, or this week, I guess, we're Monday, Friday. Hamilton's in Toronto. They're calling this one the Battle of the QEW. Who's gonna win? Hamilton, Toronto.
Well, yeah, you know why everybody always tunes in to the RO podcast, because they want to know what the genius thinks is going to have next week in the CFL Week 18. You know what? The genius was perfect. Week 17. So listen up, guys. Hamilton's going to beat Toronto Friday night. That's a no-brainer. Toronto is just not good enough, and Hamilton's going to try and win some playoff spot.
All right. Yeah, they're still in the battle for first or second. I agree with you. Hamilton's going to win. Dylan, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd be a fool to pick Toronto. So Hamilton.
All right. Saturday, the Saskies are up against the Bombers in Winnipeg. Who's going to win? Dylan?
Got to go with the Riders. Winnipeg's cocky because they think they've won a few games. They think they're in playoff contention. The reality is they're in crossover contention. And Riders are going to show them why, because we're beating them.
Well, you know what I'm saying. I'm just going to go with Winnipeg on this one, only because Ottawa had the Riders' number 2 times this year. And who beat Ottawa last week? Winnipeg did. So if I'm going with just the kind of stats, I'm going to go with Winnipeg. Unfortunately, this one, they're going to take this one at home. Riders are looking a little bit flat in offense. And the Winnipeg's looking pretty hot, and they're scoring a lot of points.
You son of a bitch. No, the Riders win in Winnipeg. Why? Because they're on a roll. I think they've won 6 to 7. Next, we have Ottawa in Edmonton. Can Edmonton rebound from the loss to the Riders? What do you think, Dylan?
Yeah, Edmonton's going to take it. Might be a bold prediction, but I think Edmonton also realizes it's playoff time. Playoffs start early in the CFL almost every season, so it's playoff time right now. Edmonton's got to win it, and they're going to.
You know what? I'm thinking I'm going to say the Ottawa Red Blacks win this one. Saturday, 3 o'clock. It's not really a night-type game, and Edmonton's just on the slide, and the slide is greased and slippery, and it's not stopping. They're going to slide right to the bottom of it. Ottawa's going to win.
It's a tough one. I'm going to say a tie.
What? Get out of town.
There we go. First tie of the year. Okay. Triple header Saturday. BC at Calgary wraps it up. BC at Calgary. I'll start. Calgary at home is pretty good. I got to think Bo Levi he gets a better game than he had against Montreal. Calgary wins. Bryce?
Oh, Calgary is going to win this one. BC only wins at home. Whenever they are on the road, they lose. They're a dome team, and it's starting to get a little cold out. So with the elements, Calgary at home, Calgary's going to win. BC's going to lose.
I'm going to take another bold prediction here and go with BC. I think BM is going to plop a few more interceptions there right when it counts the most, and BC is going to get the win.
Okay. And that brings us to the end of the show. Any last words, Bryce?
Well, I'm just going to have to say that Dylan is completely crazy. There's all this weird stuff going on with BC. BC's not going to beat Calgary. There's a weird thing going on with the coach and the GM and Jennings, and it's in the news. It's just a big circus. They're not going to get their stuff together by Saturday. You're just insane. Or you're just wishing.
The final word goes to Dylan. Go ahead.
Willie Jefferson. We were walking out of the stadium. They do, hey, fans, don't forget to vote for your player of the game. Go to the app. Pick one of these 3 players. So they show the 3 players on the screen. There was a little bit of a glitch in the system. They ended up accidentally showing Willie Jefferson 3 times in a row. The only player of the game you had the option to vote for was Willie Jefferson. So I think that's a little bit of a sign from God. Willie Jefferson saved the Riders. Without him and that interception and the time killing he did right at the end of that play, we may not have won this game. So thank you, Willie Jefferson.
All right, that's the show for this week. For Bryce Wiles and Dylan Robson, I'm Mitch Wiles. This was the Rider Outsiders.
That wasn't a glitch. That was foul play.
And we're out.
Oh,